Western Mass News.
Good Wednesday evening, everyone. Welcome to Western Mass News at 6. I'm Chris Pisano.
And I'm Abby Carnevale. Mourning continues for communities across the Bay State following the death of a 25-year-old state police trainee, Enrique Delgado-Garcia, who died during a training exercise last Thursday. Local leaders are calling for an investigation into the death of the Worcester native, who has ties to Western Mass, being a graduate of Westfield State University's criminal justice program. Western Mass News reporter Glenn Kittle joins us live from Westfield with more on what's next for this case. Glenn?
Yeah, Chris, Abby, Enrique Delgado-Garcia was an athlete here at Westfield State University on the cross-country and track teams. He was also a graduate of the criminal justice program here at Westfield State. Now, calls into the investigation of the death of Enrique Delgado-Garcia tonight are growing stronger.
There absolutely needs to be just a full-on, expansive investigation to what happened here.
State Senator John Velis calling for a thorough investigation into the death of Massachusetts State Police trainee Enrique Delgado-Garcia. The 25-year-old Worcester native died from injuries he suffered during a training exercise at the State Police Academy last week. Here in Western Mass, Delgado-Garcia's college alma mater, Westfield State University, where he was a student athlete and criminal justice graduate, is mourning his death, telling Western Mass News. Those lucky enough to share space with Enrique had the gift of experiencing his warm smile, positive outlook on life, and the ongoing support of love that he constantly shared with others. We extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to Enrique's family, friends, and OWL teammates. Meanwhile, Western New England University criminal justice professor Craig Dunton is sharing his insight on the state police training program, telling Western Mass News the regiment is physically and mentally demanding.
It is intended to somewhat mirror like boot camp in the military to kind of, proverbially break somebody down and build them back up. And in this case, especially, a lot of the physical components to it is, intended to kind of mirror what worst case scenario could be while they're on the job.
Worcester County District Attorney Joe Early is calling for an investigation into Delgado-Garcia's death. However, his office will have to hand that off to someone else. Early has a conflict of interest. Delgado-Garcia previously worked in the DA's office as a victim witness advocate. Early is speaking with third-party investigators to take the lead in this case. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell is assisting DA Early in this case, sending a statement to Western Mass News that says in part, quote, "I am in conversation with the Worcester County DA's office and other agencies about identifying the appropriate and most objective prosecutorial authority to take over this important investigation. I will continue to pray for Enrique's family, friends, and fellow trainees." In the meantime, Early is left with memories following the young man's death.
He was one of the first ones to help, whether it was the victims he was advocating for, his fellow co-workers. He always did so with one of the biggest smiles that you've ever seen.
There has been a GoFundMe set up for Delgado-Garcia's family to help with funeral costs. If you would like to donate, we'll include a link on our website at westernmassnews.com. Reporting live in Westfield, Glenn Kittle for Western Mass News.
All right, Glenn, thank you for that live report. It's been almost 2 years since 2 East Longmeadow residents were killed while driving the wrong way on I-91.